How to actually build muscle with a TRX based on science. How's it going, guys? Coach Adam here for Fitness Freedom Athletes. And today we're going to be looking at two things. Firstly, we're going to look at muscle-centric technique. And secondly, we're going to look at mind-muscle connection. And these two things are interlinked. But when you master them, you'll go from this reliance and this belief of, oh, I can only build muscle in a gym or with weights, to what I call fitness freedom, where you realize I can build muscle with a TRX. I just need to understand these two techniques to get there, okay? Now, I've been using this technique for the past 7 or 8 years. I've used it all over the world in places like Central and South America, and that's all I've used with my TRX to sustain my body, to build muscle, and to keep fit, and it's worked great. But look, it hasn't just worked for me, it's also worked for thousands of people who are in the fitness freedom athletes community as well, all right? Men, women of all ages. So if it can work for them and it can work for me, it can work for you too, all right? So let's dive in. Now, part one, muscle-centric technique. Now, 99% of people, when they grab a TRX, right, they just move around, right? You see it in these classes, the jumping, the pulling, the pushing, the hanging, they're just moving around, okay? And it's kind of mindless, right? Now, we call that movement-centric technique, okay? Now, types of movement-centric technique are things like aerobics classes. Just when you're walking, when you're running, when you're doing a fitness class, you're not thinking about how you're moving, right? You're just moving, okay? You're using lots of muscles. You're not thinking about which muscle, you're just moving, all right? Now, it has its place, right? It's good for working up a bit of sweat. It's good for doing a bit of cardio, but it is useless for building lean muscle, okay? Now, here's why, right? When you use movement-centric technique, okay, the load is shared. And I'm going to use a press up as an example for this, right? Because it's one that people do wrong all the time, and it's something we can all relate to, a press up, right? Everyone knows a press up. Now, when most people do a press up, right, what do? They just drop down and just go, right, I'm just going to bash out 10, 20, 30, 40 reps, and they just go for it. They're pushing up and down, up and down, up and down, right? They're not thinking about what muscle they want to train and then thinking, right, how can I isolate that muscle to put all the load onto it, okay? So what happens? The load, the chest, will maybe only take about 30% of the actual load of that body weight. Then you've got your front shoulders, your triceps, your back, all of them are helping out. So the load is shared, okay? And what happens when you get a shared load? You get a weaker stimulus, all right? The body and the nervous system, because it's only a weak load on the chest, because everyone else is helping out, kind of goes, meh, that's not too hard, okay? Now, a shared load from movement-centric technique delivers that weak nervous system, right? You get not weak nervous system, a weak growth stimulus. So you get zero muscle growth and you get no visible results, all right? And that's called movement-centric technique. And this is why people use the TRX and jumping around, and they're like, I'm just not seeing any changes in my body. I just don't understand, right? It's because they're using movement-centric technique. So how do you build muscle with a TRX then? You use muscle-centric technique, okay? Now, if we go back to the press-up example, when you use muscle-centric technique for press-up, okay, you're not just mindlessly pushing up and down, right? You're specifically isolating the chest, okay? And what happens when you isolate a muscle, right? When you isolate a muscle, you put all the load onto it, okay? So you get a bigger stimulus. Now, how do you do that with press-ups, right? Well, most people press up and down, okay? Instead, and this is just a small example, instead of pressing up and down, put your hands on the floor as you're about to do press up, and push your hands together as hard as you can, okay, on the floor, okay, as if you're trying to like bend the floor up, okay, as hard as you can. Never stop doing that, and then press up and down. What happens? You'll find the press up 10 times harder. Now, why is that? Because the main movement of the chest is to bring your arm across, okay? You can feel it. If I do that, if you do that with me and squeeze, you can feel the chest muscle squeezing, okay? You're putting all the load onto the chest muscle, or the majority of the load onto the chest muscle, okay? Now, what happens when you put a lot of load onto one single muscle, right? The body's like, holy crap, that's hard, that's a lot, I'm feeling it, it's really hard, right? And you get a bigger stimulus, okay? Because less muscles are helping out. You're maintaining tension on the single muscle, all right? So that's muscle-centric technique because it's isolated. You get a powerful nervous and body system response for that muscle growth, okay? So you build muscle and you get visible results, all right? Now here's the thing, right? Here's the key thing. A muscle is much weaker when it's isolated on its own, all right? Now that makes sense, okay? when you see, you know, strong men like powerlifters and stuff, they're using multiple muscles, okay, to shift a weight, okay? So the multiple muscles at the top of the funnel, when you isolate that down to a single muscle, right, it becomes weaker because it's just a single muscle taking all the load. So we can use lighter loads to get a greater muscle building stimulus, all right? And that's how you can use it, muscle-centric technique with a suspension trainer, with every single TRX exercise, muscle-centric technique, you get a growth stimulus on the individual muscle that you are targeting, okay? Because you're isolating it, all right? Now, when we use this technique, when we use muscle-centric technique, you get good muscle development, all right? You get muscle for longevity, you get good density, lots of fibers, all right? And because you're using a lighter load, your body weight, and a slower controlled movement to do technique, it's safer and you're not getting injuries, right? It's the complete opposite to meathead stuff, right? Where you're lifting as heavy as you can with the weight and you're swinging and you're pushing, just simply so you can look strong, right? They don't care how they get the weight up, as long as they get the weight up and look strong. But they're using multiple muscles. You see it, they're like this and they're up and up and up. Multiple muscles are helping out. If they were smarter and lifted with the brains, not the balls, they'd go lighter, okay? And they'd isolate the muscle so they could use lighter loads, slow and controlled, and maintain tension on that muscle, because that's how you get a growth response, all right? So that's muscle-centric technique, all right? Now, what goes hand in hand with that is your mind-muscle connection, right? Which brings us on to part 2, okay? Now, this is what the mind believes, all right? And I'm going back to this. I need a gym and weights to transform my body. I bet that's what you believe. I bet that's what your mind believes, all right? That's what the majority of people do, all right? They think I must hold a weight, all right? Now, what does your body know, okay? Your body doesn't know where you are or what you're holding, right? The muscle itself, it doesn't know, okay? It doesn't know what you're holding or where you are. All it knows is the tension you can place upon it through a range of motion, okay? That's it. That's all it knows. That's all that muscle knows, just the tension you can place upon it, okay? Now, what do I mean by tension? Well, everyone in the Fitness Freedom Athletes community calls me out on this. I call it the squeeze. And I'm like, I want to see your squeeze face. Show me that squeeze face, okay? The power of the squeeze, okay? That's how you get tension on the muscle. You squeeze it, okay? Now, to squeeze it, it means to powerfully contract your muscle with mindful intent, right? With your mind, okay? Now, you might be thinking, Adam, this is a bit woo-woo. What the heck are you going on about? Look, most people when they're working out, right? They're distracted. What are they thinking about? Oh, I've just got to get to rep number 10. If I just hit rep number 10, that's it. I can tick it off, I can go. Set number 3 and I'm done, right? Or they're thinking, oh, what am I going to have for dinner? Oh, look what's over there. Oh, look at her, look at him, right? They're so distracted. It's so external. They're not internally focusing on their body, right? To build muscle, right, you have to place your mind inside your muscle. You have to focus on your muscle and feel it contracting, okay? You have to really place the mind in it and squeeze it. So at the very top, say a bicep curl, you curl up and you squeeze, and you visually look at it, you connect with it, and you're squeezing it as hard as you can, and you keep that squeeze as you go back down, and you keep that squeeze, and then you squeeze again as you come back up, and you're constantly maintaining that squeeze, okay? Now look, your arm's shaking. It becomes so much harder because you're mindfully putting all the focus on the muscle, all right? And when you use this mind-muscle connection mastery, okay, it's the key to building lean muscle, right? You'll transform your body, you'll feel confident and healthier from that, all right? Doing all those things is in the mind, okay? Transforming your body is in the mind. You'll have heard this talking about before by Arnold Schwarzenegger. He said he could visualize his muscles growing. It's not just a bit of woo-woo. He's literally saying he's the muscle he's working out, he's putting his mind inside it and he's connecting with it and he's squeezing it super hard because he needs to maintain tension. Tension kept on a muscle powerfully is a #1 growth mechanism for lean muscle and strength to grow, all right? So that's what we look for. And when you do this, when you focus on your body in a workout, okay, and you can use your body to master your mind, right? It's internal mindful intent. Again, I'm getting a bit woo-woo, but what do I mean by that? If you have one focus for an extended period, right? So you're working out your body, you're focused on your chest and you're focused on your biceps and you're focused on your legs. You do not think about anything else other than those muscles you are targeting and you are focusing on, right? You are focusing for an extended period. That is a form of meditation. One focus for an extended period of time is a form of meditation, all right? And when you start doing this in workouts, not only do you start building muscle and seeing your body transform, all right, but workouts become like a meditation. So it's like a double whammy, right? They can help with like any anxieties you're feeling, you know, the procrastinations that are going around your head. You can internalize, and because you sort of go on another planet when you do these workouts, you come out of the workout and you've let go of them. You feel more grounded and calmer, okay? This is the difference between being able to do a workout in your own space with a TRX or being in a gym where everything's external. And you often come out of a gym more sort of frustrated than when you went in, right? Because everything's external. People are pissing you off because they're taking ages on the rack, or they're lifting, you know, I don't know, throwing weights around and all that sort of stuff, right? When you've got your own space, your own time, just as suspension training, and you internalize, your workouts become like meditation. And the ability to improve your mind-muscle connection is exponential, right? Now, science has proved that the ability for top athletes, so like bodybuilders, stage performers, they've done studies and they can only contract their muscle, they believe, to about 50%, 60% of its actual ability. They can only squeeze it and contract it to about half of its ability, right? Us mere mortals, we're down to like 20, 30%, right? That's a massive growth range for it, you know? Everyone focuses on reps, sets, drop sets, this. Stop. Think about the main metric, the biggest improvement is your mind-muscle connection, being able to squeeze and control your muscle, right? If you're at about 20, 30%, that's like 70% of growth you've got going on, right? Can you imagine if you just focused on that and increased your percentage by 10, 20, 30? That's how you're going to transform your body and how you're going to connect with it and how you're going to feel each individual muscle, controlling each muscle, all right? And when you do this, it's addictive, right? Mind-muscle connection, the squeeze. I say the squeeze so much in my workouts, my demonstrations, because it's so effective. And it makes you feel closer to your body. It just feels really good. It feels like you're just like, you've got the power, and it awakens pathways, all right? The more you squeeze your muscle, the more nerves build around them, the more you can control them. That's how you can see people who can just like squeeze one pectoral at a time and do a dance. They've got really good connection to the muscle, lots of nerves around them, all right? And when you can combine these two, this muscle-centric technique with this mind-muscle connection, I'm a nerd, I love Star Wars. I think of it like Yoda, right? Like Yoda just with the Force, right? See, that's his mind-muscle connection. He's pretty damn good, okay? He's all right, he's good. But when he's got the lightsaber, which is like the muscle-centric technique, and he's got the Force and the lightsaber, he's unstoppable, right? He's like top of his game, he's smashing it, okay? That's what it is when you combine them, all right? When you use your muscle-centric technique and your mind-muscle connection as a foundation for working out with your TRX, you will build a cracking body, right? And you will build strength and you will feel and look great. Then once you add the layers, right? So the layers could be like a specific workout plan, you know, your correct nutrition, effective ranges of motion. So you're taking that muscle-centric technique and you're looking at how you can increase your ranges of motion. You're getting a bit more advanced. Then you look at things like tempo, varying reps, giant sets, drop sets. There's so many different levers you can pull, right? But these are your biggest two, muscle-centric and mind-muscle connection, all right? They're your biggest two levers. And then once you start adding on all these other layers, it just becomes exponential and you can just keep going and going, right? And compounded together, the results can just grow and grow and grow. And they can be exponential, right? Mindful plus muscle-centric plus layers, okay? So you see what I'm getting at here? Muscle-centric technique, isolating the muscle, and your mind-muscle connection, right? Controlling it, feeling it, squeezing that muscle, all right? Now, as a quick side note, and just to finish and wrap up on Fitness Freedom Athletes, I have a range of TRX programs from beginner to advanced, but all sorts of fitness goals like muscle builder, beach body, advanced ones, physique sculptors. I'll put a link down below if you're interested in learning more about muscle-centric technique and mind-muscle connection. With my help, coaching videos and nutrition, all that sort of stuff, check out the programs down below. Otherwise, I hope you find this helpful, guys. I will put some more videos up like this and I'll go into details about nutrition and especially a few more about mind-muscle connection because it's super interesting, all right? And it's exponential, okay? All right, thanks very much for watching, guys. See you soon.